Hello everyone, it's your bald-headed newly minted Busa boy, Yammie Noob. Today we're going to talk about some of the craziest motorcycle engines ever made. By crazy, I mean the type of engine that someone said, that idea will never work, and then Honda dumped a couple trillion yen into R&D and suddenly turned it into a reality. There are a lot of standard designs for motorcycle engines, talking your V-twins, your inline fours, but these 10 just are not standard. Also, today's video is sponsored by Keeps. I'm going to tell you guys more about them later in the video. Now buckle up, or don't, because motorcycles don't have seatbelts, and let's get into it. Number 1. The Suzuki RG500. Alright guys, this first one's going to be kind of hard to wrap your head around. The Suzuki RG500 was a bike produced from 1985 to 1987. What made it so unique was that its engine was a 498cc two-stroke engine, but was a square 4. Yammie, WTF, a square 4 is a 4-cylinder engine. The square part, that comes from having two separate crankshafts for the piston. If you could duct tape two inline 4-cylinder engines together to get an 8-cylinder, this is kind of the direction we're heading in. Both engines shared one output shaft, so the clutch and transmission were kind of a normal design. It also had a rotary valve induction system, so this thing was all kinds of wild. Let's get a sound check really quick. The RG500 engine produced 95 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs and redlined at 10 grand. Maximum torque was produced also at 9,000 RPMs and was 53 foot-pounds. Suzuki developed the RG400 as well, a 397cc engine identical to the RG500, but production ceased in 1987 along with the RG500. Number 2, the Yamaha RD500LC. Speaking of dual crankshafts, our next engine is found in the Yamaha RD500. It is a two-stroke, twin crankshaft engine configured as a V4. Yamaha produced this engine and motorcycle from 1984 to 1986. Known for its really high top speed for the time at 150 miles per hour, this bike was the closest thing to a MotoGP replica during its time. With a 499cc engine, the dual crank V4 produced 88 horsepower and 48.2 foot-pounds of torque with all the peaky two-stroke fun you could want. Let's take a sound check. The design of this engine has one crankshaft per bank of the engine, and then the sides share the same output shaft. An interesting and rare design, this twin crank engine uses gears on the end of each crankshaft to engage the single output shaft. Man, I swear, it's like they were just trying stuff that stuck back in the 80s and 90s, huh? Speaking of which, number 3, you guys probably already know this one, is the Honda NR Oval Piston V4. Honda may have taken piston slap a little too seriously. Okay, if you don't know, piston slap is when your piston becomes out of round or oval shape due to extreme cold or warpage. LS1 owners probably know what I'm talking about. Honda dove head in with the 1979 500cc V4 Grand Prix bike that had, you guessed it, oval pistons. This isn't even the craziest part of the engine. No, because the piston shape was oval. Each cylinder had 8 valves. That's a 32-valve 4-cylinder. Imagine the cost and complication of a valve job. Speaking of cost, the NR, or New Racing Engine, was the most expensive production bike of its time. Honda used a 750cc design in the NR 750, which retailed at 5 million yen back in the day, or roughly 60 grand for the 1992 model. The 1992 Dodge Viper had an MSRP of 52 grand, and a Toyota Corolla fully loaded back then was 13 grand. That's how insanely expensive this bike was. Only 300 of these bikes were ever produced, and now they're considered collector's items. NR 750s regularly sell at auctions for over 100 grand these days, and they're one of those bikes that us mere mortals will probably never swing a leg over. Read, I am dying to try one out. Let's get a quick sound check. Now, today's video would not be possible without the good folks over at Keeps supporting it. Guys, let's talk about hair loss. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, Yammie doesn't have hair. He's bald! And while that is a very original and astute observation and you're a very high intellect individual, I actually want to talk about how 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. And knowing that my audience is literally 97% males, seriously, look. This is a topic that surely affects some of you guys, if not most of you guys. Keeps has basically revolutionized the way men get hair loss treatments. In the past, you had to go see some skeezy doctor, wait in line, and then wait even longer to get your medication, but not anymore. With Keeps, you visit their website, fill out some information about yourself, and a doctor will virtually look over all you provided and start your treatment with a package that comes straight to you in the mail. Right now, fans of the Yam get 50% off your first order by visiting keeps.com/Yammie. Your Yam fought tooth and nail to get you a killer deal, and honestly, that's one of the best ones we've done. So if you're noticing some hair loss, take action. Do something right now. Go to keeps.com/Yammie, 50% off, and start today. All right, let's mosey back into these insane engines because there's some insane ones coming up. Number 4, the Honda NS500 two-stroke V3. Another crazy design from Honda is the NS500 V3. Wait, V3? How does that even work? Honda developed another 500cc, it's a common theme here, for Grand Prix racing. Using 2-cylinder and 1-cylinder split design, the V3 was a unique motor indeed. It was a 2-stroke, lighter than other engines, and allowed for 2 racing wins in 1983. Let's get a sound check of what a V3 sounds like. The design of the engine allowed for a smaller frontal area on the bike, being no wider than a 250cc bike, with the exhaust being routed under the tail and to the right side of the bike. The NS500 was almost too unique, and Honda opted for a 500cc V4 the following year. Number 5, the MTT Y2K gas turbine superbike. Since I'm always reminding you guys to watch A Twist of the Wrist, this is my weekly reminder to not watch the movie Torque, or you can, it's fun either way. It's a one Gixxer type of flick. Seriously, literally one GSXR on the whole movie, but a load of everything else. Where am I going with this? Oh yes, the movie had to be over-the-top extravagant and include a race-style chase scene with the MTT Y2K superbike. What makes this bike so unique? It's powered by a Rolls-Royce jet engine. Now, I know a lot of you guys have mentioned this bike before and have always been annoyed at me for snubbing it, but here it is. Found in over 170 different applications, this engine produces 320 horsepower at, wait for it, 52,000 RPMs, and has recorded 425 foot-pounds of squid-killing torque. Jay Leno took delivery of the first consumer available model, but then subsequently had received updated parts and components as they failed on the bike. Let's see what a jet engine actually sounds like on a bike. Well, imagine that. It sounds like a jet. It is everything you've ever wanted out of a motorcycle, with a jet engine with a top speed of 250 miles per hour and the capability to melt the bumper on the car behind you. Luckily for all us Busa boys, this thing cost a cool 175 G's when new, and there was a recent model in 2017, but further production is unknown. Number 6, the Suzuki RE5 Rotary. What do you get when you mix a Suzuki, a Dorito, and a tin can? The RE5, of course. This Suzuki bike appeared just like other bikes in the mid-1970s, but what made this thing crazy was that it was powered by a Dorito, a Wankel rotary engine. Known by most people, even your parents, as that weird engine in Mazdas, other manufacturers actually tried and successfully used the Wankel rotary in their production models. It was all the rage back in the 60s and 70s. It thought it was going to be the wave of the future. Easiest way to explain the rotary engine is that it is a spinning, rounded triangle. Seriously, it looks like a little Dorito, and it moves on a shaft inside of a drum. As the triangle spins, it draws in air and compresses it and connects it with fuel, and then sends out the rest to an exhaust system, almost like a revolving door or something. The tin can, well, that's going to come from the gauge cluster design. It looks identical to a tin can that's been cut in half. Super groovy. Let's get a sound check. The RE5 was produced from 1974 to 1976. The rotary displaced 497 cc's and produced 62 horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torque. About the same as a late 80s RX-7. Just kidding. Even though the Wankel was stopped in Suzuki production, if you have a decent amount of money, you can always buy a Norton motorcycle that used a rotary as well. Number 7, the Honda RC211V. For the love of Valentino Rossi, wait, Honda actually loved Rossi so much that they dedicated an entire engine, scratched that, an entire bike to him. Sorta. They needed one for MotoGP and he was their rider. But anyways, with the strict 990cc limit, Honda engineers, yes, they have 4 out of 10 bikes on this list, decided on a V engine. Oh no, not a V3, let's not be weird. They said screw it and went with the V5. A V5! It's like a Volvo engine designer's biggest fantasy. Displacing a cool 990cc's, this 4-stroke 65.5 degree V5 pushes out a whopping 220 horsepower. Torque figures aren't known, but it probably put down more than 85 foot-pounds. Let's see what V5 fun exotic motorcycling sounds like. Debuting in 2002, Rossi and the RC211V bike were more than 100 points ahead of the next competitor in MotoGP. The crazy and unique 5-cylinder design would stay with Honda until the end of 2006, when it was replaced by the RC212V. This is an engine worth noting its sound. It's like a 4-cylinder on steroids, and it sounds really mean. God, it sounds good. Number 8, the Honda CBX Inline 6. Now, you guys already know about this one. I talk about it, I think, at least once a week, but I do love this bike, and I think we need to talk about it again. If you think the 2JZ Super is cool, check out the Honda CBX. This thing looks like any old standard UJM sort of bike, but when it fires up, oh my God, it sounds like some exotic car from the 60s. The CBX is an inline 6-cylinder engine mounted to a smaller frame. It's not a Goldwing or touring bike or anything crazy. It is still a 600-pound bike when wet with an insane engine, though. Produced for too short of a time between 1978 and 1982, the CBX had a 1047cc engine that produced 105 horsepower and 63 foot-pounds of torque. This was before the invention of squidding. Just kidding, everyone back then kind of squidded. Regarded as one of the most balanced engine configurations, the inline 6 is extremely potent in the CBX and is very smooth, has a very unique exhaust note, one that sounds more like a car than a bike. Heck, we gotta take a sound check. I'm gonna tell you guys, that does not sound like a motorcycle, but a Ferrari or a fine-tuned import. So good, so juicy. I have to own one of these one day. Please. Number 9, the Magola Rotary 5 front-wheel drive. This one's a bit of an antique, but a really crazy and different kind of design. The Magola motorcycle was produced between 1921 and 1925. This is way back in the day. So what made it so unique was that it had a rotary engine. Okay, and we already saw that, but it was also front-wheel drive. This is probably one of the most unique motorcycles you could ever find. Only a couple thousand of these contraptions were ever produced, and only a few survive after nearly 100 years, and of course Jay Leno owns one. The Magola had a 5-cylinder rotary engine mounted inside of the front wheel, which powered that wheel. It was an old-fashioned 1-speed, it didn't even have a clutch. Power output was roughly 14 horsepower from the 640cc engine. The top speed on this bad boy was surprisingly high at 60 miles per hour, but a race variant achieved a top speed of 88 miles per hour, and in 1924, one of these actually won a race. Now, let's get a sound check unless it's too old and Spite cannot find the sound clip of this bike. Let's see. There you go. Now, I need to note this engine is a rotary, as in the pistons rotate around the crankshaft, not in the Wankel-style rotary type engine, just so you guys know. And number 10, the Fueling W3 3-bank 3-cylinder. Did you ever think that a 3-cylinder car should have a bolt-on 4th cylinder? How about a V-twin bike with a bolt-on 3rd cylinder? Ladies and gentlemen, enter the Fueling W3. Jim Fueling, an inventor and fan of Harley-Davidson's, began working on adding a 3rd cylinder to the Harley-Davidson V-twin design at the same 45-degree angle. This kind of sounds like a fever dream in which I'm riding a Harley and I'd say, it has to have a 3-cylinder. It needs to be like a Triumph, and I just slap one on the side of it. When he finished an engine, he tried to get Harley on board, but they refused. Surprise. He naturally continued his work under his own name, and the Fueling Motorcycle Company began. The W3 engine design is literally adding a 3rd cylinder identical to the other two in the V-twin at the same angle, and then meshing it all together mechanically. The result? 180 foot-pounds of hold my beer and watch this torque at 3,000 RPMs and 150 horsepower. It's not bad for a cruiser. Seriously. Let's get a sound check of this bad boy. It's crazy because of its power and its simplicity. The results are quite astonishing. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. If you have your own, have worked on, or have ridden any of these bikes, please comment below. I'd love to read about your experiences on any of these motorcycles. If you have a mint condition CBX for sale, please send me a DM on Instagram because I will probably buy it off of you right now. Remember to check out our beginner bike giveaway series as well. Click the links below and learn how you can get signed up to win a free motorcycle. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you did, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Fact! In 2007, Martin Strel, a Slovenian long-distance swimmer, swam the Amazon River, totaling 3,273 miles. How an anaconda or some piranhas didn't get him, we'll never know. Goodbye.